There we go. We are recording. So we're live. We're live. Hi, peeps. Welcome to today's episode of Switch Done with me, Olowogboye. That's my introduction done. We just want to jump right into this podcast. I have two interesting people on today's podcast. I'll say no, not two. We have four interesting people today on today's podcast. Two of them can't really talk, but the other two can talk. So I'll get the other two to kind of like talk about themselves and give you a brief introduction of who they are. And then we kind of jump into the discussion of this podcast. So you guys know me already. I'm Paul. I'm your host. This is not about me. I'll hand the mic up to one of you. Who wants to kick it off?
You go ahead,
please. You want me to go first?
Yeah, go first.
Okay. So my name's Grace, and this is my daughter Alea. She is just over 3 months old. Yeah. So it's going so quickly. I don't know what you want me to say about myself.
What about yourself? What do you do for work, life?
Yeah,
powerlifting,
yeah, I'm an actuary and I work for Lloyd's of London. But I'm on a year's maternity leave at the moment, so that's nice. Yeah, so not this at the moment. Like that's stopping real soon. So yeah, but no, it's good. It's worth it. Like the year was the maximum time that I could take off, so I've taken it all. And yeah, I do powerlifting as well. In my spare time.
In your spare time. Yeah. Kind of getting back into it, I'm guessing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
All right, cool. We'll definitely touch on that in a bit. Vic, about yourself as well.
Yeah, I'm Vicky. I trained as an accountant and I work in a finance team for a company called Siemens Energy. I'm currently also on maternity leave for this little one, Maya. She's nearly 3 months old, and I'm also taking a year's maternity leave. Wish it could be longer, but you know, once you get a taste of being a mum, you're like, oh, I wish I could be a stay-at-home mum.
Yeah.
Wait. What's going on right now? I talk like the whole feminism. You got to go out there. You got to conquer the world, you know, do all that kind of stuff. I'm just joking, by the way.
No, honestly, before I came mum, and don't get me wrong, I am still quite like career orientated because like you obviously go through a lot of training to do accountancy and but it's just like this different, you're a different person, aren't you? And I'm quite career driven. Obviously I have to go back to work and I do want to make it, but then you've got this other half of you which is like you don't want to let her go. So
yeah, it's a different dimension that it's like a part of you that doesn't exist until they exist.
Yeah.
Oh, that's quite interesting. That's actually quite interesting. Let's even think about it. But no, that's amazing to hear from you guys. And basically, the premise about this is, I think I've met both of you. I know Grace definitely, but Vic, I don't know if I've met you personally, but I've kind of been in like
before.
Yeah, so we met at the camp before, and I think for me, this is more about learning. For me, and I have a discussion. I mean, there's going to be banter. There's going to be talking about life, but I also want to learn as well. I know someone might say, "Oh, why is a guy having this conversation about?" But for me, it's about learning. I think this kind of a very valuable information that we can get people's life experience, especially with different dynamics that come into your personal life, what you do for work, all that kind of stuff. Becoming a mom, or becoming a parent, how that kind of shifts your lifestyle in a sense. The impact of that when it comes to your body, also powerlifting and all that kind of stuff, just the whole different dynamics about it. So for me, it's also kind of like a learning from your position of how things have been in your life. So yeah, do you want to kind of like just give like, I know you kind of touched on your kind of like brief life, but kind of what was life like before you found out that you're pregnant, basically? What was life like? What were you going through? What was work? What was powerlifting like? What was all that happening?
Yeah. So powerlifting for me, I had the British and Worlds coming up. I was a 63 kilo lifter. So they were coming up in September, which is the month that I found out I was pregnant as well. So yeah, like nearly exactly a year ago now. In terms of work, I was working for Lloyd's of London and I've been there for like just over a year. But I was working entirely from home.
Okay.
And I was living in East London. And I was seeing Junior, but we were like long distance because he was in Birmingham.
Oh man, complexity.
Yeah. So yeah, and I was training at like a mixture of in Birmingham, at home, in my gym at home, and at Bethnal Green. But yeah, it was still kind of like a little bit, you know, pandemic world, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, we were kind of still in the pandemic world last year.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so things were still a bit like a bit different than they would have been like a couple of years before that. But yeah, that was my life. Just quite straightforward, other than the long distance traveling between London and Birmingham.
Hey, at least that's still in the UK. I know where I've been.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna go there. I'm not gonna go there. Vicky, what about yourself? How was life before you found out?
So I was just getting back into powerlifting, you know, like post-pandemic, and I didn't really have like any competitions planned. I was just kind of doing my thing, and I just like moved into a new house, bought a new house. So I was like doing that up, and that was keeping me busy. And I actually did start a new job literally like a couple of months before I got pregnant, which I know isn't ideal, but it was like past the cutoff for them to like, I could actually get maternity leave.
Oh, that's so lucky.
That's so lucky.
To be fair, I'd worked for the company for like two years before that, but it was a different part of the company, so different job. So it was it was, I felt bad, but then I was like,
you can't feel bad.
You can't feel bad about it. Life.
But yeah, and I don't really know what else. Yeah, as I say, quite simple, just you know, work, powerlifting, and just obviously I live with my boyfriend Ed. So yeah.
Oh, cool. And like you kind of spoke about like Grace, you kind of spoke about like you were kind of getting ready for competition, and basically you're prepping your body for like competition environments. Because I remember it was kind of like the British Championship, which I competed in as well, but you were kind of like prepping for competition. And I remember when you came to the championship and you were like just came to watch, and I was like, I saw you're meant to be competing. You were like, you're not competing. I think just that, in a sense, did you think like the initial start you were kind of already feeling the changes in your body, or was it just like?
Yeah, so I actually dropped out of the British before I knew I was pregnant, because I'd had like a really bad training day.
Okay.
And I was like, oh, like, you know, how, you know, we hadn't competed for 2 years because of the pandemic. And I was thinking, how have I had a 2-year off season and like I'm hitting the same numbers that I was hitting like 2 years ago? Like, what's the point? I'm not doing this. Basically, that's how I felt.
Okay.
And now I feel like the pregnancy kind of explains like probably the way I was feeling physically and emotionally as well.
Okay. That's interesting. That's interesting. Yeah. Okay, because basically you in a sense you weren't so in tune with your body to know that, oh, something else was kind of tapping me out in a sense, but you just thought it was just training alone, but there was additional factors in a sense.
Yeah.
That's cool. So what was the first like 3 months for you guys? Like the first, once you found out, what was the first 3 months? Because I know a lot of people, when I speak to people about this, they talk about how like things kind of feel normal and then it just goes like the body just kind of goes into a new kind of flux. They're trying to get to know how the body's functioning during this kind of period. So what was like the first 3 months for you? Was it just like standard kind of like just, or how was it?
If I could say one word, I'd say hell.
Let's hear it.
So it was a planned pregnancy, so I knew it was coming, but I didn't realize how hard it would be. The first 3 months I had really bad sickness. I got diagnosed with HG, so I was in hospital at one point, like with really bad dehydration. I got COVID as well.
Wow.
So it was it's just madness, because people talk about sickness and I think like, oh, it can't be that bad, and then you're like, you can't even drink water. Like anything that goes in like will just come straight in. Which is not great when you're trying to like grow another human being and you're working full time. And like, thank God that I work from home, because like if I had to go into the office, oh my goodness, like it would have been a different ball game. Yeah. But it's your body's changing. You're obviously at that point when you're 3 months, you don't look like you're pregnant, but you're definitely like softer, let's say. even though like you're not even like eating anything because you're sick, but you're putting on weight.
Yeah.
So, but and you obviously don't tell anyone in that amount of time, so it's kind of very hard, like socially as well.
Yeah. Okay. I get it. How about yourself, Grace? How was it?
Yeah, I mean, I can second that. Well, I didn't have HG. That's where you are like vomiting all the time. I think like maybe Vix will say some more about that. But everything made me feel nauseous. Like all day, every day, I was nauseous. And for me, one of the worst things was brushing my teeth. So quite often I'd be cleaning my teeth and it would make me vomit.
Oh wow, okay.
Which is just so disgusting, because obviously like if you vomit you want to clean your teeth.
You want to clean your teeth,
and
so like, it becomes like a continued process of like trying to brush it. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, okay.
But it's just absolutely exhausting as well. Like the tiredness that I had was like unbelievable. And like Vicky said, like I was so glad to be working from home, because I wouldn't have been able to hide that from people at all. Like, and it's awkward because you feel so you feel so different and so pregnant, but you don't look pregnant. So people don't, you know, if you go out and about, no one is sort of like kinder to you because they don't know that you're pregnant and they don't know how bad you're feeling.
Yeah. Sorry, did you not buy the badge straight away? Like, you know the badge that says kind of like baby on board and stuff like that.
No, I didn't get I got a badge when I was about 8 months pregnant, probably.
Oh wow, okay. Oh.
Because a man saw me on the tube basically and he was like, oh, you need one of these. The TFL guy.
Sorry, he just gave it to you for free.
Yeah. Do you have to buy it?
I know some people that buy it online and stuff like that, but I don't know. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
okay,
someone that works there just gave me one.
Okay. Eventually. All right. So like the first 3 months, it goes either way for some people, but like Vicky, you kind of talked about, is it HD? How was that? How did that kind of impact you? I know Grace kind of talked about it briefly, but how did that impact you as well?
It's horrible. Like I can't. It's just horrendous. Like 1 minute you can be feeling like absolutely fine, and the moment you smell food or anything, you're throwing up constantly. And people like say it's morning sickness, so you probably heard it like referred to as morning sickness, but it's all day. It gets worse at night, and you'll just wake up halfway through the night and you think, oh my god, I'm gonna be sick.
Oh wow.
And because I had it up to, I think, nearly up to halfway through my pregnancy, and you get to a point where obviously the baby's getting bigger and it's like pushing down on your bladder and everything, so you're like throwing up, and then you've got no bladder control. Let's say too much information.
That was spill the beans.
Oh, wow, okay. No bladder control. It's just like a whole mess.
And like in this period of time, how were your significant others kind of like, because I know we talk about like the changes that you go through as a person that's going to be having a baby. But what was your partner? Because basically your partner will be kind of going through a sort of change as well. There's kind of like that topic about how when someone is pregnant around a man, they do go to that change as well. But how was your partner or your significant other around that period of time, at that early stage? How did they kind of jump in and kind of like, what was it to them?
I think if I needed anything, he was there, like literally late night trips to Tesco, like at 11, half 11 when I had really bad heartburn. I was like, I need some ready kind of thing. And if I needed anything, he'd always go get it for me and that kind of thing. So I would say like one word, supportive. So that was nice.
Yeah. I think like Junior actually had heartburn as well. Like when I started getting heartburn, and they call it a sympathetic pregnancy, don't
there
they?
we go that was the term I was looking for. Yeah,
wow. But we both had heartburn for like the first time in our lives, but that was like later on in the pregnancy.
No, because I was speaking to a friend of mine of recent, like his partner just had a baby of recent as well, and he was talking about how he had to go get checked, because he was beginning to kind of like get morning sickness for sometimes what he was getting. It was like something his partner would have, he would also have it as well. And like he was getting like super fatigued, tired, feeling kind of pains and aches. And he was like, I've never felt that before. And then that's where that term, I found out about that term when I was speaking to him, because I knew about it, but I didn't know the kind of technical term to it. But that's interesting to know that was happening. But let's kind of like shift gears in a sense. were you still kind of like training, like how far into your pregnancy were you training, like when it comes to powerlifting or just being physically activity and stuff like that?
Yeah, I mean, I trained till 40 weeks, but it was really kind of just when I felt like it at that point. And also in the first trimester was just when I felt like it, because I felt really rough most of the time.
Okay.
Yeah, I think, yeah, I was the same, because obviously I was quite sick, so it was just as and when. I think I went for probably like 8 weeks without training at all, which it's obviously hard when you're so used to kind of doing that 4 or 5 times a week, and it's a massive part of your kind of whole schedule, that it just flips it on its head. But you are obviously very tired, as Grace said, so you pretty much just want to be in bed as soon as you finish work. On your lunch break, you're in bed, like but again, I was literally right up to, I think I was training like the day before I was induced, so it was, and it's mental, because you look back and you see the videos of you like huge, and you're like, oh my god, how was I doing that? But you got completely different leverages, so it's
do you still go back, like you talk, do you still go back and like watch videos of yourself while you were kind of heavy training, and just what goes through your mind when you see that right now? Like, what goes through your mind?
I just can't believe, like, sometimes I think I just can't believe I did that. Like, no, it's like, it's such a, at the time it feels like you're kind of pregnant forever, but it's actually such a short period of your life, and it's obviously not something that I've ever done before. And I just look at how big I was, and I just think, wow, like my body actually did that. You know,
it's interesting to kind of see what the body's capable of doing. Not like, we don't really get that, so I'm just gonna put myself in that, but like just kind of see what you go through. And like whenever I speak to kind of people, I'm like, it's amazing to see what the human body can do and what it goes through, and what it to bring in another life in. So that's interesting. Let's kind of shift gear into one thing I want to kind of look into, which is called like the medical side of it, the NHS in a sense. Let's kind of look at that and what your experiences were like from the beginning to giving birth, and kind of like post giving birth as well. Well, what has been your experience when it comes to the NHS? We know currently right now everything is under pressure. The NHS is under pressure. Our services are all under pressure. Cost of living, all that kind of stuff. What were your experiences like when it comes to utilizing the service that is free, basically?
I'll go first. So in terms of like midwife appointments, amazing. The community midwives around here are phenomenal. I'm gonna say I got baby brain. I can't even say that one. They're amazing. Even post-birth, community midwives are amazing. My midwife I had when I was in labour, I had 2. The first one I had was a student midwife. She was incredible as well. The second midwife, also incredible, who took me to my C-section. She was amazing. Postnatal care is a whole different story. They are, in fact, I'm going to preface this by saying that I had a quite traumatic birth, and I want to say that, like, if anyone's listening and is pregnant and is scared of pregnancy and labour and delivery, that everyone's birth is different. And just because, like, me and Grace might talk about our birth and like the trauma that we've had, it doesn't mean that they're going to have that as well.
Yeah.
But postnatal care, they're extremely understaffed, and especially when you've had kind of a C-section, you are in a lot of pain, and you need to be given pain meds literally every 3 or 4 hours. Otherwise you will just be in agony. Like, can you imagine like going to like having like a major surgery and them not giving you anything, and then just bring paracetamol to you, and you're like, no, they give you codeine, and also what's that stronger one that they can give you?
Dihydrocodeine or something.
There's another one as well. There's like a really morphine that they can, which I didn't know that you weren't actually meant to have if you're breastfeeding.
But I didn't get any morphine.
They were literally giving it.
Oh wow.
Oh no.
My daughter's probably got like a morphine addiction.
Touch wood.
But they're incredibly understaffed. There was I think there was 2 ladies in my little, like, we had 4 beds in my ward, and they both self-discharged themselves because they were sick of waiting for people to come round, and they hadn't even been checked out and stuff like that. And I know another things I wanted to say was that they actually had to close the labour and delivery suite at Wythenshawe the night I gave birth, because they didn't have enough midwives to cover the beds that they had, because the hospital in Macclesfield had recently closed their maternity unit. So they've obviously got people from all over South Manchester coming to Wythenshawe, and then they've got people from Cheshire as well coming, and they were just like extremely understaffed. And I just think, how dangerous is that? You go into labour and they haven't got anyone. So I think a lot of the big issue is that it is understaffed. They've got the beds, they're just understaffed.
They don't have. Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Grace, how about you? Do you kind of like, how was yours?
I mean, there's definite parallels, and we're in different parts of the country as well, which kind of suggests that it's like a nationwide issue.
Yeah.
But I started my maternity care in Birmingham when we were living there, and I was in for a home birth, and I had the same midwife the whole way through whilst I was in Birmingham, and she was absolutely amazing. I was actually, like, part of me was planning to go back to Birmingham to have a layer because the midwife was so great.
Yeah.
But I actually ended up transferring my care to Milton Keynes at 37 weeks, which was really stressful. So it took me 2 weeks to even get a booking appointment. And I was thinking, you know, I mean, I was pregnant for 42 weeks, so obviously there was no danger of me like having the baby, but actually, I could have. And I just wasn't on their books at all for a whole 2 weeks right at the end of my pregnancy. And like Vicky said, whilst I was in labour, I didn't have like one-to-one care, which you are supposed to have, but the midwife was like in and out all the time.
Yeah.
Because they just didn't have enough midwives on the ward. And also, like you said, Vicky, they had they're supposed to have another ward in that hospital, but it had to close down.
Oh,
and yeah, the staffing issue. So because they didn't have enough staff, when Alea was born, she was taken to the high dependency unit because she had issues with her breathing. And they put me on a ward with 5 other women who all had their babies with them.
Okay,
so I didn't have my baby, and I was just laying there after this like really prolonged labour and major surgery at like 2 a.m, listening to other babies cry and not being with my baby. And they've since said that like that shouldn't have happened. They just had to put me in that ward because there weren't enough midwives to staff another ward that could have been just women.
That sounds very kind of like that would definitely stoke up your emotion massively and kind of like could be a bit traumatic.
You know, and also like Vicky said, with the C-section you're in a lot of pain. Obviously Alea wasn't with me and I wanted to breastfeed. That was really important to me, so I had to transport myself after this major surgery to her ward. So I was basically hobbling along the corridors, and I just think now I look back on it and I think like I'm so lucky that I didn't have any complications, or like the fact that I was able to do that is so fortunate, because then, you know, what are the chances that I would have been able to do that after that surgery? I should have really been in a wheelchair or something, you know, being taken to Alea, but I just had to like hobble along and go there myself because there was no one to take me.
It definitely speaks to the NHS. The NHS is definitely crumbling at the same slice for sure. There's definitely a lot of underlying issues that then creep up in very, very complicated situation, as childbirth is already a very complicated situation when you take into people's health conditions or whatever that might be, or your physical condition. and just the whole process of giving birth, but then not having the right adequate resources available that should be there. We pay taxes being funded into this. It should be the case whereby this is also all being taken care of. So it's good to hear your experiences, because I think it's very, very important that we hear that. We don't get to hear that enough. All we get to hear is just there's issues with funding with the NHS and not enough staff, but we don't hear about the real life consequences enough as to how it definitely affects people. And it doesn't have to be life threatening or the loss of life, but it could be just the things that happen to you that could then impact you, just the way you kind of like are in that situation. So it's good to, like, what would be your advice, like from your experiences right now? What would be your advice to anyone that is kind of like maybe in the middle of this process of going into childbirth or stuff like that? What would you tell them to look out for, just in case?
I think if they have the opportunity, I know that a lot of people don't, but if you live in a city and there are lots of hospitals around, definitely get people's opinions of which hospitals are the best. One thing I would do differently is probably refuse an induction. That was extremely traumatic. At one point I actually told them to stop. I just didn't want them to do it anymore. It was just, and there was a woman in the bed next to me and she also said the same. She was like, I don't want you to. They kind of like insert a pessary and try and get things moving, and she was like, don't put any more in me. And that was the same. It's just like very traumatic. So that's probably the thing I'd say, like, if you do get offered induction, try, unless obviously it's like life-threatening to your baby, just try and go into labour naturally. But also I think like hospitals that have birth centres as well as kind of maternity units are probably a lot better, because they've got a lot more with midwives and that kind of thing. So
okay, yeah,
those are things probably.
Solid.
Yeah, I would second that. I think it was induction or augmentation of labour that caused both of us having to have C-sections. So they broke my waters artificially, and even though I went in, and I had a sweep as well before I went into labour, so even though they would have said that I went into labour naturally, a sweep is actually a form of induction. You know, like any way they're kind of interfering with things and speeding things along, especially if you're a first-time mum. I think you just need to get comfortable with the fact that you might be pregnant for longer than 40, or you probably will be pregnant for longer than 40 weeks. It's quite normal. And labour will take a long time, and just try not to interfere with it.
With the process. Basically try to keep it as natural as possible. Just shoot for first time.
And prep your birth partners as well to kind of like speak up for you, because it's really hard to speak up for yourself when you're going through labour.
Everything kind of happens, like 1 minute you're like having a contraction, and then the next minute you've got like doctors, consultants like rushing into your rooms, like making you sign like this piece of paper for and I don't remember a lot of my birth, but like this is just the thing that Ed's told me, but they do just come in, like hand you like this piece of paper to sign to say like you're having a C-section, and the next thing you know you're like in surgery, and you're contracting, but you've got no like pain relief. Like my epidural failed, and that was kind of part of like why it was so traumatic, because it was painful, and they were trying to put a spinal in me while I was having contractions. And it's just absolutely mental. It's just chaos, absolute chaos.
To be honest, I think what you just spoke about like your birth partner and kind of keeping them as informed as possible in that process, and having somebody there, right, is quite important. Because if I think about just thinking about that kind of situation whereby you are in a room whereby you're going through labor, you're going through this whole process that is quite intense on yourself physically, but also intense mentally. You might not be in the right like frame to be able to kind of like consume the amount of information that they might be throwing at you. So it is definitely it seems like a very volatile situation, and if you don't have a partner there to kind of handle that side of it for you, could kind of add a bit more undue pressure on yourself.
One thing I will say, that I don't know if you've been offered it or you've had it, Grace, is the NHS do like a debrief for anyone who's had like a very hard labour and delivery, and you go back like a few months later, I've got mine in October, but Grace could probably talk more about if you've had your debrief.
Yeah, I actually got referred to the mental health midwives because I found not so much just the labour and the delivery, but the postnatal experience. I found it so traumatic. We were in hospital for 5 days and I was separated from her for quite a while. And so I've had someone that's been coming to my house, and my notes are so long. I was in labour for 60 hours. My notes are so long.
60 hours.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
The first 36 was very manageable. But then
yeah. 60 hours, Jesus Christ.
But yeah, so we have spent 2 sessions going through my notes. It has been quite helpful, but I also saw a consultant, and I kind of didn't find that so helpful. I feel like midwives are a bit more empathetic in general, and they seem to be like more passionate about being with women and helping women through birth, whereas the consultants are a bit more matter of fact in my experience.
Yeah, they're a bit more, they come in with a bit more of a managerial kind of like style, just kind of like basically tick boxes and stuff like that, if I'm trying to be good enough to them.
I did notice that, and I'd actually said that exact thing while I was in labour, that the midwife was very empathetic and like kind of understood my emotions, because obviously when you're going through that and they tell you you've got to have a C-section, and you want to have kind of like a natural birth, it's very hard to kind of like take in. So you're obviously, I mean, I was just like in absolute pieces, like crying, and then they're shoving these papers in front of you, and like the doctors and the consultants are like, you need to go down to surgery now, and they're just not very empathetic. It's just like, you need to do this, you need to do this, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And they don't really understand your emotions around it, so that's quite hard. But yeah.
Solid information.
Do you know what? I've got one more piece of advice that I have to tell people, because I wish someone had really hammered it home to me.
Let's do it.
I don't know if anyone pregnant is even going to listen to this, but
no, we're gonna find someone pregnant to send it to.
Yeah. I would say, and this sounds really pessimistic, and when I was pregnant, I was doing hypnobirthing and pregnancy yoga and listening to all these positive affirmations, and I basically planned for a home birth, and I thought, I can do this. Like, I was so confident that it would happen, and I didn't want to hear this, but people should plan for the worst.
Oh, okay.
And you need to know that if it happens, you've got a plan for it. Because I never thought that I would have a C-section or stay in hospital. So even when we went to the hospital, I didn't have like enough stuff to stay there for a couple of days, because I really didn't think that it was going to pan out that way.
Yeah.
You know, and I had was kind of like rushing to tell them, like when we were going for a C-section, like, oh, I want skin to skin and I want delayed cord clamping and all this stuff that was written in my home birth plan, but I just never thought that it would like turn out that way, and I felt really unprepared for that. Yeah,
that's actually a good point. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, because as people, we try to just look at the good things or look at what we want and just kind of stick to that, but not actually potentially there could be something else that we have to like get ready for. So yeah, no, good information. I appreciate the information piece. So since you had your child, your kids, how's life been like adjusting as being new parents? Like, how's it been? Like, now that the baby's here, how's it been for you?
Who wants to go first? Do you want to go first, Lee?
I can do. It's been a whirlwind, let's just say that. So you obviously spend like 9 to 10 months really like really looking forward to like meeting your child, and it's the most amazing thing to me. Like, obviously asked me like a year and a half ago, and I've even thought like I'd be a mum right now, but it is like one of the best things. But, and I wish people had told me this, it does come along with its downs. Post birth, is a really hard time for new mums, and a lot of people don't speak about it a lot, but emotionally it's a massive roller coaster. You obviously got a lot of hormones going through you. You've got this new life that you're taking care of. If you're breastfeeding, it's literally 24/7 that you're looking after this child, and you can't kind of go here to the dad because they're feeding all the time. And it is hard. You will spend probably 2 weeks crying nonstop, but as Grace said, she had help from like the mental health team. I also got help from the perinatal team, and they're amazing, and my GP. And I mean, you can like call it postnatal depression, postnatal anxiety. It's just it's a very hard thing to kind of go through, and it's not spoken about enough, but it is so normal for new mums to go through those kind of emotions and kind of get diagnosed with that. And it's hard when you're looking after a new life, but you also need to look after yourself, and people kind of forget that. A lot of people are like, I want to meet the new baby, and they kind of forget about you. I would say it's the most amazing thing in the world, but it's also the hardest thing in the world. So you've got these like two parallels where you love this like little human so much, but inside your head you're so sad and so down. You've become this completely new person as a mum, but then you've lost this kind of part of yourself, and you're struggling with all these thoughts and feelings of sadness and crying and stuff. It's just hard, and I'm sure Grace you can.
Yeah, I just agree with absolutely everything that you've said. Like, you could be speaking about my experience, but also, we don't. It's kind of a bit of a taboo to talk about this kind of stuff, because so the thing is, like, I would explain the first few weeks as being the hardest thing that I've ever done. Absolutely. But it's like you have this love that you've never experienced before. Like, I would actually say that I didn't actually know what love was before she came along. Like, it is so intense, and that is what gets you through it. And it's like you couldn't, under any other circumstances, you couldn't get through it.
I see what you mean. Yeah.
And it's also, like Vicky said, you've lost this part of yourself. You're not living for yourself anymore. Like, everything that you do is just about keeping this little person alive and happy. Yeah. It's a 24-hour job. Like, it's all through the day you're keeping them happy, and then all through the night you're feeding them and keeping them happy as well. But you're also recovering from, like in our case, this major surgery.
Yeah.
So it's just so hard. Like, it's hard to explain how difficult it is unless you've actually been through it.
I actually saw a post on social, and people kind of discussing around it, and it was talking about how, like, in the way things are now, it's not everywhere, but a lot of people, when people have kids or when people have a baby, the focus is always so on the baby, and the care and the love and everything goes towards the baby, that unfortunately sometimes the mom or the person that just went through birth in a sense doesn't get as much love as they should be getting at that point in time, because actually they should be the one getting the most out of the most love and the most care at that point in time, because they are also the one then giving the love and care to the baby. So in a sense, they deserve maybe double the amount of love and care just to get them through the point whereby they can then just keep going on their own. So I was kind of reading through the discussion and looking at what people were saying, and a lot of people kind of chiming in and saying, yeah, they've witnessed that a lot, that the focus has always been on, oh, there's this new life right now, we want to give it all the care or the love possible, and sometimes the new mom might just feel a bit neglected in a sense.
I think Vicky actually posted that.
Yeah.
Something very similar.
So, maybe.
And it's the baby is going to be looked after by us. Like, we will take care of the baby, and what we need to be able to do that best is for someone to take care of us. Because we're not taking care of ourselves.
Yeah, I even said to my partner, I said, because obviously when you have a new baby and you've got a big family and lots of friends, everyone wants to come meet the baby, which is absolutely fine. Like, I'm so glad that I have a daughter that's so loved. But at the same time, and I did say this to him, and I think I was in one of those, I think it was in the first few weeks, and I was like having a breakdown because I was so emotional. I was like, I don't need anyone to come and take my baby from me and hold my baby and like ask me, is she hungry? Does she need changing? Is she tired? Like, I can take care of that.
Ask me that question.
Yeah, I need someone to hoover for me. I need someone to take my dog out because I can't walk further than the road because I've had a C-section. Like, my partner's gone back to work, and I know Grace, your partner, Junior, went back to work really quickly, didn't he? Didn't really have much time.
He's in a new job, so he didn't get much time off. Yeah.
Like, come hand my washing out, come make me some food. Don't come to my house and take my baby from me and I can't explain it until you like are actually a mum, but seeing someone hold your baby in those first few weeks, it sounds selfish, but it's so hard, and especially if they're crying, it's just,
you're just like, give her to me,
give it back
like,
to me, yeah.
Just give me my baby.
Literally. And I don't mind, like, my friends have come round and my family have come round and Ed's family have come round, and if I feel like it, I will say, hey, do you want a cuddle? But like, when someone comes to my house and the first thing that they say is, can I hold the baby? And I'm like, no.
That's actually quite interesting, because when I think about it, like when people come over to the house and want to come and just, I want to come and meet the baby, I want to come and do that with the baby, and kind of like take the baby from you.
Yeah.
And it's because in a sense it's like, all right, cool, we can take care of the baby while you go do what you need to do as potentially like a mom, or like with the house when it comes to like cleaning, laundry and stuff like that. And in a sense, just go back to do what you need to go do while we take care of the baby, in a sense. And like, when I think about it, that's like, it does feel a bit uncomfortable, because it's like, actually, it can help me do that stuff. It shouldn't just be because I'm a woman and I'm in the house, I have to do that stuff, and then you just take care of the baby while I go do the house stuff, in a sense. Why don't you help me out with doing that stuff while I actually care for the life that I brought in? And that's actually quite interesting. Yeah. Now, because like,
I have to shout out to my mum as well, like on what you were just saying. Like, she's been an absolute angel. She came to my house and she started doing my laundry and my ironing, and I kind of like tried to interfere, and she said, the word she said was, you take care of your baby and I'll take care of mine. And I was like, that's what mums need. New mums need someone to do all of the shitty jobs, so that you can just take care of your baby, basically.
That's like, actually bang on.
Especially when you've had like a C-section, even just like reaching, you don't realize how much you use like your stomach muscles, and just like reaching up for something, reaching down for something, like getting something out of the cupboard, whatnot. It's very hard. Even like, you wouldn't, if you'd had major surgery, you wouldn't be expected to like just go back to normal. But mums, if for some reason mums are expected to do that while taking care of a baby, and they're like, oh, you shouldn't lift anything, but then you've got like a 7, 8, 9 pound baby that you need to be
lifting every single time,
all the time.
And I think I remember when I was in hospital one of the nights, Maya was crying and I couldn't get up in time because I was in so much pain, and I was crying because I couldn't get to her in time. And thankfully one of the midwives was like in the bay next to me, and she came in and helped. But it's those kind of things that you just can't get to your baby quick enough, and it's just so hard, and you don't realize what you can and can't do. But like Grace said, shout out to my mum as well, who came and like hoovered. Fantastic. She even cleaned my carpets for me.
Oh man, that's so sweet. Now, you know, it is actually quite beautiful, because like, we where I used to live before, I used to live with my family, and my brother had his wife from Nigeria come over, and she was pregnant at the same time, and then she had a baby. And just looking at the process, like my mom, just what my mom was doing, it was a great example as to how we could help her out. It wasn't just by helping with the baby, it was about helping with various stuff around the house, which meant that she didn't have to worry about anything else. Maybe just like cooking or like doing the washing up or like doing the laundry and stuff like that. Any way in which shape or form that we could take care of that process for her made life also easier for her to then focus on the baby, the new life in a sense. And they just had a baby right now as well, not that long ago. Earlier this year they had a baby, and it's the same process. I remember like when she was pregnant the second time, my sister-in-law, she was crying. She was crying because the reason why she was crying was because her mom is back home and her mom wasn't granted the opportunity to come over. And just that bond of not having her mom around to take care of her, just like my mom has been doing that for her, it kind of got very, very emotional for her. She was like crying, but like I just had to kind of call and be like, you know what? It's all well, it's all good. We're here as a family. We'll take care of the responsibility that your mom will be doing because she knows that you're in good hands as well. So that's the thing. But I think that's quite crucial because I also learned during that process that it's not just about taking care of the baby or taking the pressure off her by taking the baby away from her. It's by what can we do around you to make sure that you are as comfortable as possible to process with your recovery and also just kind of to recover from this process that you've been through as well. Because I've known people that have had babies and literally in the next like 2-3 weeks are out to work and stuff like that. And that's just pressure. So the question is like, what can we do to then take that pressure off yourself? So that's amazing. Shout out to the mothers, man. Shout out to the mothers. They do amazing jobs. My mom better not listen to this podcast because she'd be like, yo, where's your kid? Why are you always talking about something? Where's your kid? It's your time to go have a kid. Maybe she literally messaged me. Was it like no, my dad messaged me like last week or something like that, just out of the blue, just like, what are you doing with your life? He said when you were 30, you're gonna be settled down, have a kid already, you know what I mean, a wife. You're 32 right now. Pull your weight up, boy. He's dissing me. He's like, yo, listen, look at your mates. They're all having kids, like, because my cousin just had a baby, and that's the reason why he messaged me.
Yeah.
It's like, look, he's younger than you, so he has a kid already. Look at that. Oh, yeah, it's cool. My time will come. But
Yeah,
it's cool. There's no pressure. There's no pressure. I take this as a learning time. I want to learn about this whole process before I jump into it, even though everything can just go sideways. So it's cool. But what is going on now when it comes to like, let's bring it back to something that we know about, like powerlifting. Like what is going on with yourself when it comes to training? How you getting back into it? What is your look into the future when it comes to like powerlifting, competing and stuff like that?
Yeah, so I started back training, I think I was just over 6 weeks postpartum. So that's kind of like the recommended amount of time when you have like your checkups. So I didn't really wait for my checkup from the doctor because like, what do they know really?
it was like, was yours rubbish? Mine was so rubbish.
Yeah, they don't really, they care more about the baby, which is obviously fine. We want the baby to be perfect. You know your body and you know what you're capable of, and as long as they've looked to make sure my like incision isn't infected and all that kind of thing, I felt like I was kind of good to go. And pretty much every day I was like walking a bit further, so I knew my recovery was like going okay. But yeah, so I started back end lifting, like obviously doing like light weights, 6 weeks, and then I moved to a different gym that I was training at before I got pregnant, and they said that I can bring Maya with me, which is like shout out to Good Lifts in Manchester. They're amazing. They let you bring kids, dogs, you know, whatever.
That's awesome.
So it's good. It allows me to train still, which is good. Obviously sometimes it's not ideal when you've got a crying baby and there's lots of people there and you feel bad and they want to feed and your schedule's just all up in the air. But yeah, I'm getting through it, training like 3 or 4 times a week. I've actually just entered my first comp back.
I saw that December.
Really exciting to do. I mean, it's not going to be spectacular. It's just going to be just like get back on the platform.
That's a big achievement.
Yeah.
In itself.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully qualify for the British next year. But yeah, well, that's kind of my aim, just to get a qualifying total, and then yeah.
And is the gym privately owned? I'm guessing it's a private.
Yeah. It's a private gym. The only thing that's rubbish about it is it's like in an old mill, so it's 2 flights up some stairs.
Okay.
So I had to carry her up in like a car seat. And,
but at least they give you the opportunity to actually like come into the space with your child and kind of be able to kind of train? Because I know commercial gyms don't really have those sort of facilities, or they're not catered for new moms in a sense to want to like bring your kid in and stuff like that. So
I am a member of like a commercial gym as well, and they have a crash there as well, but there to be 3 months to go, and then you have to pay extra, and it's only like 2 hours a day. So obviously getting out of the house with a baby, you don't really know what time so some gyms are okay, obviously they've got the crashes, but nothing that you can just like put her there and feed her when you kind of want. And so
okay. And Grace, what about yourself?
I started back at 6 weeks as well. I was kind of doing like some breathing exercises and stuff before that. Hold on, I'm gonna have to take it out of this thing.
Let's go. It's like, now you're talking about training, I want to hear.
This is basically how my sessions go.
Bring me out.
So started back at 6 weeks with just the barbell, and then I've just kind of like added some weight each week depending on how. Look at this.
Hello. Oh,
she's not
hello.
What's going on?
They're like, who are these people? Who are these people crashing into my time? Who are you?
She's so grumpy right now.
This right here should be the thumbnail. Just like, why are you here?
That was a good run though. It's been like an hour.
Yeah,
that was good.
Proud of you.
So and I've just been adding weights like each week. Things are just feeling better. I don't know about you, Vicky, but like the first time that I put like 60 kilos on my back, I was like, how did I ever, like, to think of the weights that I used to lift basically just blow my mind now. Like I can't imagine ever getting back there. Like I know that if I keep training, then I will, but I can't imagine it at the moment. My body just feels completely different.
But do you find your body is either rapidly like kind of getting used to getting back into like lifting weights, or is it still taking this time in a sense?
I would say the difference in like, so if we go from like the day that she was born, the 2 weeks after that, like really shocked me how quickly I felt so much better. Because like straight after, like when you first, I mean, it was like the middle of the night when I had my C-section, and when I first woke up, I was like, oh my God, how will I ever recover from what's just happened to me? Like, it is excruciating. And like the first time you try to sit up, it's like someone has literally ripped out your entire core. Like it's
no more core, the core's gone.
You can't describe it. It's such a weird feeling. So the first few weeks recovery really shocked me, like the progress there, and also the progress from the bar to like 70 kilos say on squats. That was really fast as well.
Okay.
I'm expecting it to start slowing down a little bit now. Like I've got to like 100 kilos on squats, and I'm expecting things to start getting a bit slower.
Wait, what was your max? Like, what was your like heaviest like squat?
170 was my max squat.
Okay. All right.
So I don't know what I could do for a single at the moment. I don't know, probably 120. I reckon.
She's saying more. She's saying more. I think you could do more. Right, more, right? More, right?
Not yet.
Like, don't stop lowballing yourself, Mom. Come on. Add some more there. People watching, people listening.
There's some like, I would say there's some like movements that feel very uncomfortable or like unnatural. Now I don't know about you guys, like I had like split squats that I wanted to do, and like obviously you got one leg back and one leg forward, you're really kind of stretched out, the same as when you're benching. It's very, very uncomfortable, and obviously I'm fully now, but it's just it makes you feel a bit like uneasy about it, like you're stretching out that much, and it's not like painful, but it's just, it makes you like cringe a little.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I know as well, like at the moment I'm not bracing when I'm lifting,
because the weights are still pretty light, and that's kind of how I trained when I was pregnant as well. I didn't brace, so anything that I could lift without bracing was fine.
Okay.
But because I know my core is so much weaker than it was, I know that when I get to those weights where I have to start bracing, it's going to be very
a bit
difficult,
more
I think.
taxing on the body. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting. That's interesting. So I'm guessing your next
Yeah.
competition is in December. Vicky and Grace, do you have any competition looking forward in the future for any competition? Are you gonna come back and like smash those in the weight class right now? I'm trying to spice it up. I'm trying to cause a little spice of drama, you know. I like a bit of come on.
Yeah, I don't know.
Wait.
We'll see about that. But I do want to get back on the platform by the end of the year.
Awesome. What weight class are you in again? What weight class were you in?
I was 63, but I'm going to be a 69 now because
everyone is in that weight class though, you know.
I know. I just don't like. Obviously, I'm not 63 kilos anymore, and I just don't want the added pressure of trying to diet.
Yeah,
I don't need it right now.
it ain't worth it. But now, okay, I'm looking forward to the 69. Let's go. Wait, are you in the same weight class as well, Vicky?
Yeah.
Okay. We're gonna have the battle of everyone's and then the battles of the moms and all that. That'd be nice.
Yeah, because I think, you know, Sabrina Moore, who just gave birth, she had a premature baby. I think it's 28 weeks.
Wow.
She would also be a 69. Well, she used to be a 63, but I think she might have moved up. So yeah, battle of the mums in the 69.
Okay. Oh man, I'm gonna promote this. I'm just saying. I'm gonna promote this. I'll go with that.
Category postpartum.
Yeah, I think so.
but you know what? That would be amazing to see that happen.
Yeah.
If it's the next British next year, early next year, whenever that is, that'd be amazing to see, because I mean that's just a testament to how the body can go through such a massive change in life and is still able to kind of like acclimatize and get back to kind of performance, because this comes to just the whole mechanics of the body and stuff like that. So that'll be very interesting to watch. I'll be there cheering. I'm just gonna go there just to kind of just get a shit told to. I'm not gonna lie. I'm nowhere close to where I need to be. But no, that'll be interesting. I'm looking forward to that. But no, this has been an interesting conversation. I'm really happy that you guys could jump in and have this conversation with myself. I learned a lot, because this for me was not just about just having a very nice heart conversation, but I wanted to kind of hear about the process that you guys have been through. I learned from it, but also I'm going to share this to everyone else on the podcast, put this on YouTube as well, so people can kind of like have this information out there that they can digest. And anyone in our community or powerlifting or outside the world of powerlifting as well can kind of look into this information, digest this content, learn about the process, and hopefully kind of like engages people's mind about what goes through your body when you go through pregnancy or potentially go through pregnancy. So really appreciate your time. I know you have the babies and you got to go back to, I don't want to take too much of your time. So really thank you for joining me today. I appreciate it a lot.
Thanks for having us.
Cool.
It was nice.